The note left for her read, "Joey, I'm moving out for a while. For how long, I don't know. You're not guilty of anything. I just met someone. Please don't try to find me or contact me. I need to do this. With love, Shelley." It was a complete and utter shock for me. My wife of 21 years disappeared. Just like that. Poof and no. I'm Joe Mason. My wife is Michelle Shelley. We have known each other since elementary school because our parents worked together. But they started dating only in their first year of college. Before that, we went to different public schools, but in college they found a common language. During our senior years, we started living together. We got married the summer after college. Shelley is a lively, energetic blonde of average height and build with blue eyes. I am also of average height and build with brown hair and eyes. I work in my own law firm. Shelley works at a local hospital as a nurse manager. We are both 42 years old. Both are in good physical shape thanks to going to the gym, hiking, and volleyball. At the gym, she does aerobic dancing. I take self-defense lessons and hit a heavy bag. This can be a good aerobic workout and build strength. We have 2 children, both in college. James is 19 and Susan is 18 and a freshman. When I received the note on a sunny April day, I immediately called them, first to James, and read the note to him. He said he was shocked. I said I would keep him posted. Susan was less surprised by the note, although she said she didn't know her mother was planning to leave like that. Well, what did you know, Susan? As you can imagine, I'm curious. Who is this man she met? Dad, I'm not sure of anything. Just noticed her having lunch with a guy from her work. The second time I asked her about it, she said he was a friend from work. Name is William Connor. But you suspected something, didn't you? I felt a little uncomfortable with her explanation because she looked a little awkward. This was just when my spring break ended. I just ignored it, but I should have told you. Sorry. God, she left you. It's not your fault. Don't worry, I can handle it. After these calls, I made inquiries online about Connor. He is a doctor. Until last week, I worked in her hospital. Now it looks like he has moved. According to his biography, he is 40 years old, divorced, and works as a cardiologist. But for the last 2 years, he worked at the hospital as an administrator. A check of his reputation as a doctor revealed that 3 years ago, he had an emergency during an operation, and the patient died. Judging by the photo, he is a fair-haired, tall, stocky guy. I looked up his current job or address, but found nothing. I called my friend, who is more into computer research, and asked him to find Shelley and/or Connor. Bill James said he'd look into it and call if he found anything. I checked our accounts. Shelley's checking account was not touched, but her automatic deposit was not made this month. And she took almost all the savings, more than $200,000, that were in the Vanguard account. I called Bill back and asked him to track it down, giving him the account number and other information. And he called Vanguard about a withdrawal that was listed as in process. The representative said he would contact me. Our house was jointly owned and cost about $800,000. Maybe she was planning some kind of setup, or maybe she's just a thief and an adulteress. I drove to her parents' house about 30 miles away. It was Wednesday, but both cars were parked at the house. Mark and Sally Benton worked with my parents at GMG Enterprises for many years. They talk sometimes, although more often when I was little than lately. I had no difficulties with either of them, and I thought they raised their daughter well. Until today, that is. And I knew that Shelley was close to her mom. I went to the door and knocked. Mark opened it. When he saw me, he was not surprised. He simply stepped aside and led me into the kitchen, where Sally was sitting at the table with a glass of water. "Hello, Sally. What do you know that I don't know?" Mark said. We, mostly Sally, knew that Shelley was on a dangerous path. We thought so. She talked to her mom about everything, and we agreed not to tell you about it until she had a chance to discuss it with you. Sally, she didn't give me a single chance. And she took all her savings. Maybe I'll try to get her arrested for this, unless she returns half of it soon. As you can imagine, I am not happy with her and her fuck buddy. Joe, you shouldn't use such expressions. Sally wasn't really angry. She believes that he is her betrothed. Do you believe it too? because I consider him a thief, at least of money. I met him once. She brought him here about a month ago, but then she didn't say why he was with her. She simply introduced him as a work colleague. We chatted. In the end, I thought that for some reason she wanted to introduce him to her parents. I warned her later, but she obviously didn't listen. I assume you know where she went. Where? We shouldn't talk to you about this, Joe. She's afraid you'll react badly. Sally, Mark, I'll still find her within a few days. And she is absolutely right. I will react badly. At that moment, my mobile phone rang. It was Bill. He reported that both Shelley and Connor took jobs at a hospital in Pittsburgh. We rented an apartment near the hospital. Shelley and Connor have a joint checking account with some money in it. $200,000 have not yet appeared. Bill thought they might have gone offshore. If so, he could still track them, but it would come at a cost. He'll let me know. During the conversation, Mark and Sally watched me. They watched me write down the addresses of the hospital, bank, and apartment in a notebook. Bill also gave me the cell phone numbers of the two. I didn't write them down. I just remembered them. I didn't want them to know that I had them. Sally asked, "When she wants to come back to you, will you accept her? Why did you even think that she would do this? It sounds like she wants a clean break, no contact. I don't think she'll ever come back, except for money." "I think she'll want to come back, Joey. But how soon? Don't know. If she comes in right now and apologies, maybe we can go to counseling. The more time she is away, having sex with another man, living with him as a wife and husband, well, you get the idea. I don't want you to break up." Sally burst into tears. Mark patted her on the shoulder, and I said goodbye and drove back to my office. As I was about to enter, Bill called again. He said Vanguard delayed the transfer of $200,000 as a precaution against possible fraud. He said that now they would not give out the money, although the account was joint. It appears that there were some irregularities in the transaction. I told him what they told me when I called there. I called them back and emphasized that the withdrawal was illegal. I was told that the transfer was blocked due to several anomalies in the method used. I asked someone in my office to urgently issue a TRO against Vanguard, as well as Connor and Shelley. He spent about an hour on this. I then sent it electronically. This should stop the theft for a while. A TRO is a temporary injunction that is usually accompanied by an application for a permanent injunction. I called my family in Oregon, where they were living in retirement, reported what happened. They were very surprised and full of sympathy. Then I sat down and thought about what else I could do, and moreover, what I want to do. I did some quick research and found out that adultery is not a crime in Pennsylvania, but in Virginia it is a misdemeanor. I just noted it in my head. I decided to do what I often did with difficult problems. Call my mentor, Uncle Jed. Jed is my mother's older brother and lives near us in D.C. He is a lawyer but retired several years ago. In fact, he is a lobbyist. But for me, he was a source of guidance, not so much in the field of law as in life itself. I asked if I could pay him a visit. We agreed on dinner. I'll pick up some fancy pizza and beer and bring it to his house. While I was waiting, I called a private investigator I knew. I asked him to find out how long Shelley had been intimate with Connor. This may have gone on for some time. Who knows? I tried to think if I had noticed anything about Shelley lately, that might make me wary. I have just completed a long and difficult trial that lasted 4 months. We had a favorable verdict and negotiated how much it should be reduced. Perhaps while I was on this case, I didn't pay much attention to Shelley. For 6 months or so, including preparation. We were still having sex. Well, until a month ago. Then, no. I should have noticed this. Before the break, there was no change in her response, or in frequency either. Busy or not, I enjoyed sex with Shelley. And this was not the first lengthy trial in which I participated. After a few weeks, a rhythm appeared, and at home I was no longer so distracted. On the way to Jed's house, I first stopped at the clinic and took a series of tests for sexually transmitted diseases. Then I stopped for pizza and beer. Jed met me at his door, the same one I remembered from childhood, the same house. His last wife disappeared about a year ago. For 40 years, he was married to a wonderful woman, Ellen. But she fell ill with pneumonia and died 5 years ago. Since then, he has had several women, but none of them lasted long. Today, there was no one there except himself. What could bring such a busy lawyer to such a remote place? I told him, showed him the note, and let him know what I had done. It's clear. It doesn't look like her. I want you to sit here for a while. Just think about your life with her, what it was like. I'll get you something to drink. I'll be back in a while. I did what he asked. I thought about all the good things we had with her. We laughed, raised children, had sex, and communicated. We did everything together as a couple. I found myself silently crying as I took it in. She was the only person in my life for over 20 years. Of course, we had children, but for me, she is the only one I loved and trusted the most. My tears flowed as I remembered our lives. No, our lives together. Now she's gone. Poof. How could she do this to me? I finished sobbing into my sleeve. Jed came back with 2 drinks and a bottle of whiskey and just let me cry. I poured it into glasses. I looked up at him as he knocked over his and did the same. A good thing. It distracted me. I looked up at him. You're so damn smart. Thank you. Do you want her back? I want my old life back, but it seems impossible. I don't know if I want her back. She might do it again, if I even survive this time. I think you need time to get over everything. You may need help to do this. I just did the most obvious thing. I allowed you to release the pain, some of it. But you need more help than I can give. I don't have a very good track record after Ellen anyway. Well, you still have sex. Yeah, but that's not enough when you already have everything. Then we had a 2-hour conversation about what our marriages were like. We went back and forth. There were tears in his eyes too. But Ellen will never return. Shelley? Hard to say. I was beginning to realize that I might not be able to be with her anymore. When we finished the marathon session, I was overcome with a feeling of righteous anger so strong that I thought I was going to fall. I stood up and staggered out into the street. I started punching and kicking an old heavy bag that he had hung on a tree in the backyard. I was in a furious rage, more intense than ever before. Everything was directed at Shelley. I hit her in the face, kicked her in the body. Bitch. Absolute, insensitive, evil bitch. Jed watched from the porch. He later told me that he almost dialed 911. Finally, just before he was about to call, the pear fell from the tree, and one of my kicks sent it flying through the fence with the neighbors. I fell to the ground, sobbing. Jed helped me into the house and calmed me down as best he could. Either way, I was exhausted. Wet noodles. I was in good shape, but far exceeded my capabilities. After some time, I don't know how much, he laid me on the sofa and covered me with an oriental robe. I slept all night. This morning I woke up to the smell of bacon and coffee. I rolled off the couch and stood up, unsteadily, but I pulled myself together, being damn hungry. We ate bacon, eggs, and toast. After that, I headed to the shower. I shed the clothes I was wearing and put on the tracksuit Jed had lent me. I shaved, shampooed, and generally restored myself. My hands were red and swollen. I put antiseptic on them and bandaged them. Shelley was a nurse and taught me how to do this. My whole body hurts. There was a cut above his right eye. I used the butterfly patch and looked like I had been in a brutal fight, and he lost. About 24 hours have passed since I read the note. Jed wrote down the name of the marriage counselor he used, Mary Stevens. He said that he believed that she would help me get myself in order. Said that marriage counseling does not have to involve both parties. I took the card, drove home, got dressed for work, and entered the office building. The staff noticed my shabby appearance. Their eyebrows rose. I called a meeting of the entire team. We have 12 employees, including 4 lawyers besides me. I explained what had happened and said that I was unlikely to come to work much until the matter was resolved. We agreed on a replacement lawyer for the duration of some of my appearances. I sat in my office and, miracle of miracles, did some work. Had lunch at the office and worked hard all day. At 17:30, I left and went home. Shelley took clothes and other belongings, but most of her personal belongings were still there. I went to Lowe's and bought boxes and tape, and then systematically packed all of her things into those boxes. Clothes, books, photo albums, shoes, everything you can. I put it all in the garage. Shelley's car wasn't there, so there was plenty of room. Called Bill and told him that Shelley had taken her car. Then he went around and collected all the photographs of Shelley from all places in the house. I threw them all into the trash bag, frames and more. I sat and thought about the state of affairs. I cooked food in the microwave and went to bed. But when I was about to fall asleep, it occurred to me to check our home computer and her mobile phone, which was in the charger. There is her email on the computer, which got me nowhere. The phone had calls from a number in Virginia dating back approximately 6 weeks to today. There were also several text messages addressed to Connor, aka Bill, later Billy. These messages set up lunch dates and pre-work meetings. Nothing too incriminating. I went to bed. On free day, I went to work again. It worked for me the day before. It worked now too. After lunch, a private investigator called. He said that he was located in a lunch place where women from Shelley's department often lunch. He just listened. It is not surprising that the disappearance of the boss and the handsome doctor has become a huge topic of discussion. Both were the subject of intense speculation even before their disappearance. One woman saw them leaving the motel during the day, another kissing near a restaurant nearby. In general, the staff was convinced that they were lovers. A private investigator found rental documents for motel rooms. In the weeks leading up to Shelley's departure, she rented a room for half a day 3 times, paid in cash. There are copies of receipts. There were car numbers. Twice hers, one not hers. I decided it was worth taking a look at Connor's finances. Why didn't he pay his share? So I called Bill again. It took him about 2 hours to determine that about 10 months before they moved, Connor was facing serious financial difficulties. He has mortgage, car, and credit card debt. After the divorce, the hospital collected arrears from his salary. He didn't pay child support. It occurred to me that on his part, it might all be about money, $200,000 to be exact. It made me feel sorry for Shelley. About 10 seconds. I then punched a nearby office chair, knocking it over and sending it flying across the office. My assistant poked her head through the door to see what the noise was. I had to apologize to her. I called and made an appointment with a marriage counselor. Then he walked down the hall to the family law firm's office and asked to see Mildred Hoover. Mildred was the best divorce lawyer in the area. It turned out that she could see me and immediately took me to her office. I explained the whole situation to her. I found out that the trial was scheduled for next Monday and that Shelley received the summons at her job in Pittsburgh. I didn't need Mildred for this. My company could do this too. I asked her about what might happen in a divorce. She took some financial data and spent some time on the computer. She doesn't seem to be doing all that well. Because of the prenuptial agreement, your law practice is excluded from reimbursement. She will receive half the value of the house and half the assets accumulated during the marriage, which I assume is about most of the assets. At the same time, she will have enough to feel comfortable. Let me think about it. We'll see what happens at the TRO hearing. But get your papers ready. About adultery and everything else. That evening, I ate microwave pizza and went for a long run. At about 9:30, I called Susan. She picked up the phone just as she was about to send a message to voicemail. Hi, Dad. How are you? Fine. Just wanted to know if I've heard from your mom. Well, there is, but I promised. Damn it. She says you're trying to get her and Connor into trouble. She should be in court or have a lawyer there on Monday. She's upset. What's going on, Dad? Much money. Someone tried to take it out of our joint investment account. I filed a lawsuit to stop this so we can work it out. It seems to me that perhaps your mother did not know about this. Not sure. Fine. Is she safe with this guy? She looked worried. I have no idea if she's safe. It's up to her, really. She can leave if she feels threatened. Why did you ask? There in the background, some screams were heard. Male voice. I didn't hear what he said, but I think he was angry. Mom said it was nothing to worry about. I hope so. There's nothing to be done from here. We talked about her studies and the new friend she had made. Then they hung up. I had a hectic weekend. The important day was Monday. TRO in the morning and meeting with a consultant in the afternoon. I talked to James, who hadn't heard anything from his mother at all, and went to the gym. There I saw Shelley's good friend, Clara Barton, another nurse. Clara saw me and tried to escape through the back door. I managed to stop her before she could do it. I don't want to talk, Joe. It still won't do any good. You knew she had sex on the side, Clara. Why didn't you let me know? She said you would react badly. Maybe you'll become cruel. I'm more like her friend, and I don't know you well enough to know if she's lying. Well, what about this guy? Connor? Isn't he a source of trouble? Because that's exactly the impression I got. Yes, he is a source of trouble. I told her about this. But she was sorry. She was getting sex that she liked. She thought she was in love, and he was her betrothed. Yes, I heard this from her mom. I wish she would just talk to me about it, instead of sneaking away like she did. I think she'll be back very soon. He is not her betrothed. All this can subside if you are patient. No, it won't subside. She made her own bed and now she can't crawl back into mine. Clara looked at me and shrugged, returning to the treadmill. She looked good in her tight spandex suit. I openly looked at her when she returned to the exercise machine. She stared right back. I smiled at her, and she smiled back. I was looking at her from behind, just standing there. She looked at me in the mirror in front of her, still smiling. She increased the speed on the machine. It highlighted her cute ass as it bounced. I blew her a kiss and left. But I remembered this interaction. I thought that I could soon be free. There's nothing wrong with getting started. This pleasant conversation with Clara lifted my spirits. At the thought of her, I began to get excited. I haven't had sex in a long time, considering Shelley and I haven't had sex. I was wearing loose gym shorts. I was at the other end of the hall. I took a seat on the leg press machine and set the weight quite heavy. Then I started doing repetitions. 3 sets of 12 repetitions. Then I increased the weight. I saw Clara step off the treadmill and walk towards me. We made eye contact. She stood close to the machine and watched me lift heavy weights, 3 times 12. That was not easy. For the last time, I lowered the weight and lay there, breathing heavily and looking up at her. She saw that I was excited. I must have stirred something up. She was looking straight at my crotch. I made no effort to hide it, and she said, "I feel guilty, but I'm ready to ignore it if you want to take a shower at my house across the street." Agreed. I'll grab my things and meet you at the entrance. No need to pack your things. Afterwards, you can return. She smiled again, licking her lips. I hope you're not too tired. Clara was about 30. She is of average height with a thick, curvy body. She has brown hair and hazel eyes and is beautiful in the usual sense of the word. She was married and now divorced. Without a doubt, she was my best recovery subject.